In a dimly lit room, they forced the man's mouth open. The doctor installed an expander in his mouth, then shoved a thick hose straight down his throat. The next instant, the doctor flipped a switch and slimy eels began sliding down the tube into his mouth. The man wanted to scream, but his throat wouldn't let him make a sound. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying in a hospital bed with his thigh completely encased in plaster. The director standing beside him smiled and said, "That was just a dream," then motioned to a nearby nurse to hand the man a glass of water. The man drank it without suspicion. The dean left the room only after he was satisfied, but after the man finished the rest of the water, he noticed a live worm at the bottom of his glass. The man didn't think much of this little creature and simply crushed it between his fingers. He hobbled out of the ward on crutches. This was the strangest place he'd ever seen. He saw a group of elderly people doing water aerobics in a pool. Some were living in massive steam boilers, and even stranger, there were people swimming in water tanks without oxygen masks, moving as nimbly as fish and swimming for hours on end. A strange silence enveloped him. Suddenly, the toilet seat began to shake. The man lifted the lid and saw a container filled with eels. Panicked when he turned around to find that everything from moments before had vanished. Furious, he smashed the toilet, but there was nothing inside. He began to believe those horrifying visions were hallucinations, but after nightfall, his true terror emerged. He discovered all his teeth had fallen out. He ran to the doctor's office, but it was completely empty, except for jars filled with human teeth scattered everywhere. Before he could escape, orderlies suddenly restrained him. A terrifying iron contraption covered his face, and the doctor began pulling out his teeth one by one. Back in his room, he shattered a glass and used the shards to cut through the cast on his leg. Covered in blood, he ran to the cafeteria and exposed the doctor's true identity to everyone. The patients gradually began to wake up. The man thought he had saved them all, but in the next moment, they all moved toward him. They looked at him with cold eyes and embraced him tightly. They strapped him to a gurney, locked him in an iron box, and there he underwent what they called eel therapy. If you want to see part 2, please like, comment, and follow my channel.